You're watching BCTV. We're all about Brantford. You're watching BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Brantford.
All right, we're gonna go now. Yeah. The camera's on. Ready? One more thing. Wait.
I got another letter from high school student, but you also
I know you're doing committee stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you want to do? You want to speak to it or no? Yeah, the last one.
Yeah, I know, but that was Janice.
All right, because I know we would.
For the committees, Michelle, the new member, only add Dan Edelman, who's going to take Jessica's spot on our.
We're gonna send him to.
Yeah.
The Bruins are playing. Hurry up, let's go.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Everybody, we're going to call the meeting to order. If you can hold your, hold up. Okay, the R.T.M. will be convened on Wednesday, June 12th, 2019 at 8 p.m. at Brantford Fire Headquarters, 45 North Main Street, to consider and act upon the following matters. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Representative Sullivan?
Yeah. Mr. Moderator, I would like to place the name of Representative Thomas Brockett from the 7th District to fill in as the RTM clerk for the rest of his session.
Okay, there's a motion to have Tom Brockett fill in as the clerk of the RTM. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Tom, come on up. Will the town clerk come up and swear in the new member? Actually, there's two new members. One of them can't be here tonight, Patty Austin, but we do have another member of the RTM, Michelle Semper.
Michelle Sember, please raise your right hand. Michelle, you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, so long as you continue a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge the laws of the town charter and the duties of Representative Town Meeting District 1 Representative of the town of Brantford to the best of your ability, so help you God. Yes, I do. Congratulations.
Okay, new member Patty Austin will be sent to Public Services Committee, and Michelle Semper will go on Administrative Services, and we're moving Dan Edelman to Rules and Ordinance.
Adding him.
Huh?
Adding.
Admin.
Edelman's just added. He's going to be too committed.
Okay.
Look, you said Adel.
All right. Ready? Yep. Okay, item number 1, roll call.
Representative Edelman.
Present.
Representative Alphone.
Present.
Representative Anderson.
Here.
Representative Black.
Here.
Representative Brockett here. Representative Conklin.
Here.
Representative Dunbar.
Present.
Representative Erlinger.
Here.
Representative Flanagan here. Representative Greenberg.
Here.
Representative Healy.
Present.
Representative Henschel.
Here.
Representative Ingraham.
Here.
Representative Jackson.
Here.
Representative Lawler.
Here.
Representative Leonard.
Here.
Representative Lombardi.
Here.
Representative Crete.
Here.
Representative Ricchio.
Present.
Representative Samaro. Representative Stepanik. Representative Sullivan,
Here.
Representative Torelli, Representative Trow,
Here.
Representative Toohill,
Here.
Representative Walker,
Here.
Representative Wells,
Here.
and Representative Sember.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a motion? Motion by Representative Ingraham. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved without exception. Item number 3, receptions of communications, reports of committees, and citizens' petitions. I have a letter here from the First Selectman, James Cosgrove. At the Board of Selectmen's meeting held on June 5th, 2019, the board unanimously approved the license agreement between the town and API Sycamore and LLC for a license to construct a paved driveway and maintain a lawn and other suitable and appropriate landscaping along the driveway in the adjoining town right-of-way of Sycamore Way. Please send this for the appropriate committee. I will send this to I will send this to Administrative Services. I have a letter addressed to me from Wayne Cook. Dear Brantford R.T.M., as your previous meeting, the moderator denied our request to refer an issue outlined in the attached letter to the committee on the grounds of this matter is in litigation. Both the moderator and the R.T.M. are to be reminded that the First Selectman's promise of an investigation into the process surrounding Costco inland wetlands application in 2016 was made 3 years before any litigation was filed. Consequently, it is asked again that the attached letter be read aloud at your next meeting of the Brantford R.T.M. in keeping with the fiduciary duty of the citizens of Brantford. Please place this item on your agenda for the fair and thorough consideration it warrants. And as I stated at our last meeting, my ruling stands. This item is in litigation, and therefore, no action will be taken.
Yeah, but that's not the point, Mr. Moderator.
You're out of order, Wayne.
No, I'm not. It's my
No,
correspondence.
I'm not doing it. I read it. That's it.
It's my correspondence. The fact of the matter is, the investigation was promised 2 years ago. The litigation started 3 months ago. So if the selectman's going to promise it, why didn't he deliver it? That's a very reasonable question.
I also have several letters here from various individuals.
But you can't answer that question.
I told you, my ruling stands. I'm not sending it to any subcommittee. That's the end of it.
With all respect, you're just
No,
arbitrarily saying
no.
no.
That's it, Wayne. I'm sorry. I have several other letters addressed to the RTM. This one's from Bill Horn. Dear Moderator Flanagan and RTM members, I'm writing to strongly support the ordinance to restrict the use of plastic bags, item 7 on the agenda for the June 10th RTM meeting. In addition to addressing the problems of litter and the many environmental impacts of the plastics when the bags are carelessly discarded and progressively degraded over the course of many years, the ordinance, if enacted, would significantly reduce the Brantford's contribution to the current increase in fossil carbon greenhouse gas emissions. The carbon dioxide and methane emissions related to the global production and disposal of the plastic is predicated to increase more than 50% from the current levels by 2030. A recent report from the Citizens for the International Environmental Law states that ending the production and use of single-use disposable plastic is the most effective action for reducing the climate effects of the plastic. Brantford recently created a special coastal resilience account to fund adaptation to rising sea level. However, while taking adaptive measures where possible is necessary, it does not address the greenhouse gas-induced global warming that is underlying cause of the increased coastal flooding, increased precipitation, and other effects of the global warmings that we are already experiencing. Eliminating single-use plastic bags in Brantford will be a significant step toward reducing our town's contribution to the cause of the outgoing changes. Another letter from Wanda Bobrowski. Dear Mr. Moderator, I urge you and your colleagues serving on the Brantford RTM to support the ordinance to ban single-use plastic bags in the town of Brantford, an ordinance that comes to vote at your June 12th meeting. We've all seen the horrific photos of the dead whale found in the Philippines with 88 pounds of plastic in its belly. The 15-foot-long whale got mangled and strangled by all that plastic. A dead sperm whale washed up in Indonesia with more than 1,000 assorted pieces of plastic in it, including 115 cups, 25 single-use bags, 4 bottles, and 2 flip-flops. Our refuse ends up in their stomachs and killing them. We see similar dereliction environmental effects on our local habitat. Plastic waste washes up on the short beach shores after tangling with limbs of swimmers and oars and paddlers. We see plastic bags floating in the marshes along the trolley trails. We can spot plastic shred dangled from the trees and nest platforms. Warning to all fishermen in the Granite Bay and Brantford Harbor, consider the chemicals content in the fish that you're about to grill. Members of the Brantford RTM, we have a chance and responsibility to enact legislation banning single-use plastic bags from Brantford shores, which will ultimately have a global impact. At the same time, it will educate local residents about adopting new habits that diminish our waste footprint that's harming our local environment. Let's set an example for the rest of the shoreline, even the whole state, by demonstrating Brantford's forward thinking and leadership. Leaders that can work together with residents and business owners alike in crafting laws to protect our environment, and leaders that will uphold the values of the shape of the quality of the life of Brantford. These are all letters I give. This letter is from David Schreiner, 78 Cedar Street. Dear Mr. Flanagan, I support the enactment of the town ordinance to ban single-use plastic retail checkout bags. It is estimated that the greatest percentages of such bags used in retail sales is used only once, and that 20% of them wind up in the ocean, more specifically for Brantford and our shoreline towns in the Long Island Sound. These bags are hazardous to marine and avid wildlife that mistaken the bags as food source or larger sea mammals that swallow them and scoop fish up during their feeding process. Also, they are most likely a potential biohazard to humans who consume the fish and shellfish that are being found to laden with the considerable amounts of microplastics that are in the seas due to deterioration of the bags over a long time. The expenses involved in removing, hauling, and disposing of the trash that is created by these bags has become an added burden of Brantford and other municipalities, especially due to China's having recently rejected the acceptance of them from America. Additional consideration has been given to roadside private and public land that continually are defaced by blown or purposely discarded bags. The impact of perpetual cleanup efforts, the unsightly viewing by the tourists to Connecticut seacoast and other rural communities becomes a burden to our tourist trade and our local merchants. The ban would work in favor of the environment, the life forms already affected by the bags, our communities, our tourist industry, and our local merchants. This would result from the ban. Public education, and to switch to reusable bags. The merchants eventually would no longer have to provide bags, and their storage and counter space would be free for other uses. These benefits foretell a win-win all. Let's see. This letter is from, let me see, Margaret Meg Kilgore, addressed to the RTM again. I'm writing to you on behalf of the BYO Brantford, a group of Brantford and concerned citizens who are now asking that the full RTM accept BYO Brantford amended ordinance that was passed out of the Rules and Ordinance Committee in April. This purpose is to protect and improve the environment of Brantford, including its coastal and marine life, and the healthy safety and welfare of its residents by reducing the use of plastic and paper bags and encouraging the use of reusable checkout bags when making retail purchases. Because of the recently passed state of Connecticut legislation, there will still be a single-use plastic bags for 2 years, but ironically, a 10-cent surcharge mandated by the state will act as a deterrent to encourage shoppers not to take them. And by the continuing to talk about the negative impact of the plastic bags in the community, our group will be working to get more and more people to bring their own reusable bags. Our BYO Brantford group has collected over 830 signatures of Brantford residents over 18 years old. We have talked to Brantford merchants on Main Street, West Main Street, North Main Street, Leeds Island Road, Brushy Hill Plaza. 24 merchants and 7 nonprofits have publicly supported our effort. A list of these supporters is included along with this letter. In addition, we have given out 550 BYO Brantford cloth grocery bags to residents who have seemed excited about using them when shopping, and when we will continue to order more to distribute. Plus, we are planning to have a promotional art contest in the fall for both children and adults when they create images to illustrate the dangers that single-use plastic bags pose to people and all animals, especially birds, fish, and aquatic animals. Once again, I want to remind you that the Brantford has 20 miles of coastline and is known for its Thimble Islands, Brantford Harbor, and river boating, fishing, clams, and oyster beds, and swimming, plus spectacular views along the shore. All of this is one of Brantford's most valuable assets. We ask your support for this ordinance. Okay. And I have another here from Ellen Page, plastic bags. The earth is our only environment and is losing its ability to house people rapidly. Many believe we have gone beyond the tipping point. Most believe we can save the earth's hospitality to human life, and some believe the earth is not changing, and no matter what we do on earth, we will care for us. All who have seen the plastic in the ocean, its turtles, birds, and whales believe it is not good. Stopping the use of plastic bags in Brantford is minor to the depth of the problem, but a very necessary statement. Please pass this bill and continue to pass more to help our precious world for the future. We need to show we care and to start the move in the corrective direction. Every change helps the environment and people awareness. We have a long path in front of us, so please make this statement for Brantford. Show the world that Brantford is caring, waterfront caring community. Let's be proud to be citizens in town with cares. I think I have it. You don't have any plastic bags? Oh, you have all those too? Those are the ones I have. Oh, you got this here, this. All right, why don't you, you know what? Why don't you read some of these? How's that?
Okay. Against.
Yeah.
We have some additional ordinances for the plastic bags dated June 8, 2019 from Lauren Brown. I am writing to ask your support for an ordinance restricting the use of plastic bags, item number 7 on your June 12th agenda. Here are just a few reasons why we should ban plastic bags in Brantford. They are wasteful, they are made from petroleum, which is a finite resource, but are quickly thrown away, or worse yet, thrown around the landscape to create unsightly litter which never decomposes. Their manufacture creates greenhouse gases which contribute to global warming with its concomitant effects on sea level rise. Recycling is not a solution, as this process also requires fuel, both in the transport and the recycling process itself, generating even more greenhouse gases. If they get into marine ecosystems, which they often do, they can choke and poison marine life. I also hope that you will support a proposed amendment to require stores to charge a small amount for paper bags. Substituting paper for plastic will not answer our environmental problems. It's another letter addressed to the R.T.M. from Kate Galambos, dated Monday, June 10, 2019. As you know, plastic checkout bags create an inordinate amount of waste. It is estimated over 600 million plastic checkout bags are distributed in Connecticut annually. Only 5% are disposed of properly, and far too many end up in our waterways, recycling facilities, and incinerators, harming human health, endangering wildlife, and littering neighborhoods. Substituting paper for plastic is not the answer to this waste problem, because the paper production process harms the environment by causing increased greenhouse gas emissions and deforestation. The only viable option is for everyone to use reusable bags all the time. Accordingly, I urge the R.T.M. to modify the draft plastic bag ordinance proposed by the R&O Committee and approve the ordinance with the original wording proposed by BYO Brantford. Entities engaged in retail sales shall charge and retain a minimum fee of 10 cents for each recyclable paper bag and/or reusable checkout bag provided to a customer. The goal of a plastic bag ban is to change customer habits. Right now, most customers and businesses treat plastic bags as if they are not harmful, even though scientific data proves that they are. It is habitual to use plastic bags without thinking all the time. So my objection to the R&O draft, which does not require a charge for bag, is as follows. Only when the business is required to charge for a bag will customers begin to bring their own reusable bags, because if they can get a bag for free, the habit does not change and the needed transportation to customer reusables is not supported. Now is the time for Brantford to do its part by approving a plastic bag ban that is appropriately rigorous to accomplish the goal. There has been concern in the R.T.M. about the effect of this requirement on local businesses. Respectfully, I would ask that any potential impacts to local businesses be explained specifically and with evidence. I have a letter from Celia Shanley. Dear Representative Jessica Everett, I'm writing to you as a member of your district in support of the plastic bag ban. I am a junior at Brantford High School. I, along with many of my peers, am concerned about how plastic bags are putting our future in jeopardy. Plastic bags threaten aquatic ecosystems and present a great harm to organisms. They mistake them for food and consume them. They also pose a threat to our oceans due to the greenhouse gas released during manufacturing that contribute to climate change and sea level rise. As a shoreline town, waging war on an ocean plastic should be a top priority. Plastic bags also contain toxics that cause harm to humans, such as carcinogens. I am hopeful that you will vote in favor of this ban and help protect our future. Sincerely, Celia Shanley. Another letter dated June 7th, 2019, directed to Mr. Flanagan, moderator, from Shirley McCarthy, professor at Yale School of Medicine. The plastic bag ordinance has to be approved for many reasons, but I will primarily address the health issues via quoting directly from emerging scientific literature. Microplastics in seafood and the implications for human health. Approximately 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the oceans annually, and conservative estimates suggest 5.25 trillion plastic particles currently circulate in ocean surface waters. When plastics are exposed to natural forces like sunlight and wave actions, plastics will degrade into microplastics, defined as plastic particles under 5 millimeters in size. A 2016 UN report documented over 800 animal species contaminated with plastic via ingestion or entanglement. Seafood consumption represents one pathway for human microplastic exposure. Nutritional authorities currently advise Americans to double their seafood consumption. However, awareness or concerns about microplastics in seafood could lead consumers to reduce their consumption. As of 2015, global seafood intake represented 6.7% of all protein consumed and approximately 17% of animal protein consumption. Plastic debris is a human health issue. Humans are being exposed to both plastic particles and chemical additives being released from the plastic debris of consumer society. Humans can be exposed to plastic particles via consumption of seafood and terrestrial food products, drinking water, and via the air. Uptake of plastics by humans and animals can cause adverse health effects by at least 3 possible means. 1, particle toxicity. The physical effects of particles observed to date in human cells and tissues and in animal models give an insight into the possible risks of particle exposure in humans. The studies show that plastic particles can cause lung and gut injury, and very fine particles can cross cell membranes, the blood-brain barrier, and the human placenta. 2, chemical toxicity. Plastic debris can be regarded as a complex cocktail of contaminants, including both micromolecular substances, chemical additives, and macromolecular substances. A number of these substances, such as bisphenol and some of the brominated flame retardants, are known to be endocrine disruptors that adversely affect human health upon exposure via ingestion and inhalation. In addition, air and water-borne hydrophobic contaminants with large plastic air and plastic water partition coefficients sorb to plastic litter, an excellent hydrophobic sorbent phase. Exposure to plastic debris means exposure to these chemical substances. 3, pathogen and parasite vectors. Both large and small plastic debris act as a substratum for pathogenic microorganisms and parasites to enter the body. The negative externalities caused by the profusion of plastic litter is an example of market failure that comes with exorbitant social costs and damage to human welfare and health. The research into the impacts on human health is in its infancy, but undoubtedly will show harmful effects based on what we are seeing in other animals. For those who object to this ordinance via the rationale to protect business, the plastic or grocery business, then please think more broadly and specifically about our local shellfish and fishing industry, as well as the tourism that Brantford receives from people traveling here to eat in our seafood restaurants. Oysters, a species of high economic and ecological significance, upon ingesting microplastics exhibit reduced feeding and decreased fertility. Once the accumulating data on the human health impacts of eating plastic hit the front pages of newspapers, humans will avoid or decrease their seafood intake, and our seafood restaurant industry will suffer. State-level EPAs have begun assessing the public health implication, and there is already a call to monitor human seafood consumption, particularly bivalves. Most sincerely, Shirley McCarthy, Professor, Yale School of Medicine. That's it, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, I have nothing else on that. Okay. Okay, item number 4, to consider and if appropriate, approve an initiation of the condemnation procedures with respect to Crescent Bluff Avenue. There will be 2 individuals that will speak to the body. One will be the attorney representing the town and also the attorney representing the Crescent Bluff. This item will be sent to Administrative Services Committee. They are meeting on July 9th. Okay, first individual will be the town attorney representing the town. Please state your name, sir, when you get him up.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and members of the R.T.M. My name is Edward O'Hanlon. I'm a lawyer at the law firm of Robinson & Cole, and I've been asked by the first selectman to brief the R.T.M. on this issue tonight. If I could take a minute and hand some materials out.
Go ahead. I should point out for the people that are here for the plastic bags, this is 2 individuals that are going to speak on this item. It may take a little while.
Yeah, well, I want to be able to hear them. And so far, they actually have water.
Yeah, I need to.
There's no light. Oh, it's got one. Fine.
Excuse me. Thank you. Very good, yeah. Okay, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I've handed out a brief summary of my remarks tonight. The first page of them are some procedural matters that I'd like to go through, and then I'll get into the substance of the reasons for the town seeking to acquire this property by eminent domain. This matter is fairly straightforward. It's not adversarial. This is an exercise of the town's sovereign powers to acquire property. It's called a taking, but that's a misnomer. It's going to compensate and compensate fairly the owner of the property, and it's intended to address a problem that the town government perceives. It may arise from circumstances and be related to certain matters that are in litigation, but this is different from the litigation. What we're doing tonight is the second stage of the local approvals under the town charter before the town can acquire property owned by one of its citizens. It was approved last week unanimously by the Board of Selectmen. It's been referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission under a state statute that requires the Planning and Zoning Commission to advise whether the acquisition is consistent with the town plan of conservation and development. And if you all see fit to vote it forward, it'll then go to the Board of Finance. That's the local approval. There's then a statutory approval where the actual acquisition takes place. And again, it's directed at the property and to determining a fair value of the property. It's not directed at any individual or the owner specifically. And there's a process of appraisal where a fair value is determined. The owner can accept that or the owner can challenge it. If it's challenged, it'll be taken up by the court and a fair value will be determined. So again, it is a transparent and steady process. We have 6 months to accomplish it from the date that it's initiated. So the local approvals don't even begin that 6 months yet. But the basis for the condemnation is that there be a public purpose. And that's what I'm going to get to in just a second. But in this matter, just specifically, the 3 parcels, it's Crescent Bluff Avenue, which is the road itself. It's a 10-foot parcels on either side of it. They call the grassy strips. And then it is a lawn at the end of it, through which a drainage pipe to Long Island Sound that drains the end of Crescent Bluff runs. So I'll refer to the road and the grassy strips as the avenue and to the lawn as the lawn. But before we go forward, let me make clear that since 2013, when an adverse decision by the Superior Court in the litigation made a finding that Crescent Bluff Avenue is not a town road, even though it had been treated by the town as a town road for decades. That's what precipitated this. And the question that I was hired to advise the town for was, what do we do about that? Because we respectfully disagree with it. And the town had an option. It could appeal it, in which case it stuck with the record that the court had before it, the findings that the court made without any ability to change it. It could be a process that could take years. And the standard on appeal doesn't favor a losing party or winning. So the town turned to again, another arrow in a town's quiver that a private property owner does not have. We have a problem. We own and have maintained and installed over the years a sanitary sewer system under that road. There are water pipes, there are drainage structures under there and to the lawn. We have paved it, we have maintained it, we plow it. How do we protect the people along that road? How do we protect the value of those private properties that serve as a part of the tax base from which the town derives its revenues? And that's where we get to the public purpose. But in the 5 years, 6 years since then, the town has purposely stayed out of the litigation to avoid needless spending of money. But we've been in touch with all the lawyers and the parties in that case. And we've tried to see, can you resolve this amicably? And all I can tell you is that despite all our efforts, we've held out the prospect of eminent domain. This has not been a secret. I've told these lawyers from the beginning, why doesn't the town just take this road, as it owns so many other, as it has so many other town roads, and then be assured of its position? But we've heard them out, we've tried to work with them. And we've only decided to go forward with it now, when it's become clear that the town's interest is not going to be served by working out a private agreement. Now, a number of these discussions are in the nature of settlements, they're in the nature of real property negotiations. I don't think it's fair to anybody because I'm hoping that we'll continue these discussions. So I don't want to point fingers or compromise anybody's position, but it's very clear that the owner of that property intends to advantage its ownership in concluding this deal. And therefore, my advice to the town has been, you have that right as a sovereign, that sovereign right as a municipality. The owner will be made whole through the condemnation process. My advice is to do it. And so what I would start from beginning is that, first of all, it's reasonable and it's a public interest. And those are the only two. When a town exercises its right to take property by condemnation, because that's a sovereign right, it's respected by the court. The court or somebody may disagree that there's a different way to go about it, but you don't second guess that decision. The only question is, Is there a public purpose? Is it reasonable? And is it in good faith? And we think we meet all three of those characteristics. Again, for over a century, the essence of the rightful interest, and I would characterize this action by the town not as a taking, but as a retaking. We're not taking this property from someone who has owned it for years. We're taking it back. Because, as the court found in its own decision, since at least, World War II and after that, the town has always treated this as a town road. And it's only when the court, there's a long gulf of no evidence at the trial. There were some deeds at the beginning of the century, the 20th century. But again, it's very possible when these things happen that the result is, nobody expected this decision to come up in 2013, this question to come up. So it's very hard to marshal all the evidence that you might have offered. But the question is, why do it? The town has an interest in the health, welfare of the people who live on that road. Those systems are not singular. Those water systems, the sanitary sewer, the drainage, there may be a time when that drainage has got to be increased because of the climate changes that we're looking at. There's a time that those sanitary sewers have to be repaired and maintained. They don't just serve Crescent Bluff, they're tied into the town's whole system. And if there's a problem, the town can't wait, or if there's a dispute with the owner as to whether an easement is not being honored right, or somebody wasn't called to be notified, somebody's health could be in danger if that system needs repair. And that's the essence of what the town is doing here. And this is unique. This Crescent Bluff is unique because that title is in the name of one entity, a private entity. There are many other private roads in town, but typically they're in the name of a property owners association where there's at least some modicum of commonality between the title holder and the individuals who own property along it. In this case, that's not the situation. And the court proceedings that the town has watched have been directly adversarial between that title owner and all of the neighbors. So the reason the town feels like it's got to protect its right to maintain, repair, and replace those systems. The owner has not offered to compensate the town for its investment. The owner has not offered to take over the maintenance and repair of those systems. The owner has expected the town to step up and do it, and the town has done so because that's what's in the interest of the people there and the town's interest in its residential property stock. So that's the fundamental reason for the decision to take. The logic of it does relate in part to the litigation because, again, as I mentioned before, the town doesn't have to explain its decision except to the extent that it's reasonable, it's made in good faith, and it's for a public purpose. It's, if we took that appeal, it could be 3 years to one court and another 3 years to another court. We'd be stuck with the record that was made at the trial before the Superior Court in 2013. The expense is enormous. And the likelihood of winning is slim, because typically appellants who lost at one level aren't going to win at the other. So the taking is reasonably necessary, and it's interesting because I put in here, it relates to the Connecticut Supreme Court's case called Kelo, which you all have heard of, went on to the U.S. Supreme Court and put the whole concept of eminent domain for certain purposes under a cloud. But this is not that. And in fact, the Kelo decision very much supports what we're doing here. Connecticut, the legal standard under Connecticut law for this type of taking is what I have just described. Reasonable, good faith, or valid public purpose. And also watching the litigation has been instructive because at one point the town attempted to allow a utility to get into to get onto the road to maintain it, and it was met with a motion in the court for contempt from the owner. again, the town has the right to say, with all due respect, we're not a private property owner, and we have a purpose here different from private property owners, and we don't need this in order to protect the people in this town. And so that's the that's the reason we're going forward. The town's taking will put an end to it. Because when the town decided to move forward, when the selectmen authorized me to inform the court that the town was moving forward, the other parties went immediately into a mediation that's ongoing, and I hope they'll be able to resolve their differences. And I'm monitoring that mediation, I'm talking to the judge, and the judge knows what we're doing here. But again, the town does not have to play along as a private party with these litigants. The town has the ability to say, we're a town, we have duties that transcend a private property owner's interest. And again, that's what we think is triggered here. There's been another litigation that's been spawned by this, that's been directed at the Board of Selectmen themselves, asking them to do what's called lay out a road. It's an old statute when towns were being developed, that if the town government was looking and favoring one part of the town and ignoring another in terms of its use of public funds and building roads, citizens could petition, say, lay out a road here because this is where we are and this is what we need. That old statute is being used to force the town, to ask the courts to force the selectmen to take Crescent Bluff back as a town road. Now, that's relitigating the same issue that another judge decided against the town 5 years ago. What do we need to do that for? When again, I think we can ask the town engineers what's important. You ask how they perceive what they need to do. They don't want to have to go ask somebody for permission to go on, to dig into that road and fix something. They don't want to have to face an injunction action by an owner to stop them when they're in the middle of doing it. And furthermore, it's been a teaching experience for the town because of the singular nature of this title, because there's a number of other roads that are private. There are a number of other roads that need to be examined in regard to this, but again, this road stands out because it is under the control of a single entity that does not have a common interest with the other people around it. And the idea is, if you all want to fight. We hope you won't. We don't want to be part of that. And so that's the essence of what the town believes this exercise of its eminent domain authority will accomplish. And we'd ask that you approve this so we can move forward to these next local approvals and ultimately into the statute process that the law has passed to protect the town and the property owner. I'm happy to answer any questions. I've summed up without reading to you what I've given you. As I indicated earlier, I'm sending it to Administrative Services, and that subcommittee will deal with it at that point. So if you're done with your presentation, we thank you. And thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, members.
We have the attorney for the Crescent Bluff Association there, wherever, would like to speak to this.
See, this is the same thing. Nobody against.
Good evening, members of the RTM. My name is David Hardy. I'm an attorney with the firm of Carmody, Torrance, Sandback, and Hennessy in New Haven. And I represent Beechcroft LLC, the owner of Crescent Bluff Avenue. I thank you for the opportunity to address this important matter this evening. I do have a handout that I'm going to distribute to members of the RTM.
So he's not the association.
As members of the RTM, are surely aware, the town of Brantford maintains more than 100 private roads within its borders. Dozens of these roads, just like Crescent Bluff Avenue, run north and south and terminate at Long Island Sound. Why is Crescent Bluff Avenue being singled out for this taking among all of these other similarly situated roads? We have heard concerns, purported concerns expressed about access and public safety issues. Access to Crescent Bluff Avenue has never been denied to police, fire, or first responders. My client has been inaccurately and unfairly maligned for supposed acts of dominion over the road that have no basis. Beechcroft has never placed physical barriers on Crescent Bluff Avenue, nor can it. And the reason it cannot is because the Connecticut Supreme Court has held that Crescent Bluff Avenue residents have the right to pass and repass over the existing paved portion of Crescent Bluff Avenue to Pine Orchard Road, and that these residents also have the right to pass and repass over the lawn to access water between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. This is the clear law of this state. It is settled. It is the subject of 2 Connecticut Supreme Court decisions that were issued in 2006 and in 2011. And we need to be clear that this litigation that is pending, it is all about the lawn. It's not about the paved portion of Crescent Bluff Avenue. It is all about the lawn at the south of the paved portion of Crescent Bluff Avenue that leads to Long Island Sound. The residents, not certain residents of Crescent Bluff Avenue, want more rights than the court has afforded them. They want more than the right to pass and repass between certain hours. Another contingent in the litigation is the Pine Orchard Association. The Pine Orchard Association has no rights in the lawn, but it wants rights in that lawn to pass and repass and to use for the benefit of its members. Beechcroft has not initiated any of the litigation that the town feels it is being dragged into. It has initiated none of these lawsuits. It is the defendant in these claims that have been brought by these other dissatisfied private property owners. We've heard that there's an interest in this road being taken to preserve home values. Well, first of all, we disagree with the premise. Recent sales on the street demonstrate that home values are doing just fine on Crescent Bluff Avenue. And the notion that the town should be taking this road and effectively picking winners and losers with respect to property values in the real estate market, that is not a valid exercise of the right of eminent domain. Supposedly, residents along Crescent Bluff Avenue would benefit, but at the same time, the waterfront owners at the end of Crescent Bluff Avenue lose. It's not the role of the town to wade into these waters and to pick these winners and losers. Until last week, nobody from the town had ever told Beechcroft that there was an interest on the part of the town in acquiring the lawn at the south end of the road. Attorneys for the town repeatedly assured the owner of Crescent Bluff Avenue and the courts that the interest of the town in acquiring the property here was limited to the paved portion of the avenue and the grassy strips that parallel it. Well, you may say, what about that drain pipe that runs beneath the lawn at the south end of the street? Well, the town is already on record in public court filings indicating its view that it already has an easement sufficient to maintain that drain pipe. And that document, it's a public record, and it's in the materials that I have handed out to you this evening. Notwithstanding, Beechcroft has repeatedly offered to give the town an express easement for the purpose of maintaining the drain pipe. And although there is no record of the town actually ever performing maintenance work on the drain pipe in the area of the lawn. Beechcroft tonight reiterates its position that it is willing to grant the town an easement for the maintenance of that drain pipe beneath the lawn. The town has numerous drain pipe easements in private properties throughout town, and it has never taken a full interest in real property for the purpose of maintaining drain pipes. Taking a full interest in a lawn where an easement would suffice is an excessive and abusive use of eminent domain power, even if we're not talking about a situation which we believe we have here, where there are bad faith motives at play. If a authority or town or agency with condemning authority has the need to maintain some utility or drain pipe, in those situations, it moves forward and condemns easements to maintain those facilities. It doesn't go ahead and take the entirety of the property that hosts the particular utility at issue. We have also heard at the meeting of the first selectman that the acquisition of the lawn would be of benefit to providing access to Long Island Sound. Well, the acquisition of this particular lawn is not necessary to provide access for the public to Long Island Sound. In fact, as you can see, and as I'm sure many of you know, Spring Rock Avenue is a public road that is a city block away that provides access to Long Island Sound. And indeed, you will not hear about any plan for public access across this lawn to Long Island Sound. As you can see from the photos you provided, there is no parking at the south end of Crescent Bluff Avenue. There's no room for parking at the south end of Crescent Bluff Avenue. There is also no beach. The photographs we provided show that after you cross the grassy area and head down the steep grade toward the water, there's a staircase, and at the bottom, there is rock. There is no beach to be accessed at this particular point. There is also no access to the walkway that at one time connected the points of Spring Rock Road and Crescent Bluff Avenue. And by the way, the Pine Orchard Association has already failed in the pending litigation to prove that it has any easement rights in what is left of that walkway. But as you can see from the photos we have provided, that walkway is now covered with large riprap and is inaccessible from my client's property. As you can see, the lawn portion is a valuable private residential property that is used by and serves as a buffer to the home of my client. It is, in effect, the side lawn of my client's home. That lawn portion directly abuts both my client's home to the east and the home of the McBurneys to the west. The lawn portion that the town is now proposing to take runs right up to those structures, so that if the town takes this property and provides a public thoroughfare to Long Island Sound, there will be people passing within feet of both of those homes, supposedly to get to the favorable access of Long Island Sound that exists below. In our view, town leadership has fast-tracked this authorization to avoid appropriate public engagement in advance of the election season. We just learned of the Pine Orchard Association request made to the town to take this property through a FOIA request. We learned of that on May 24th, 2019. By June 4th, the item was on the agenda of the Board of Selectmen, and the dates for the other town boards have quickly followed. In our view, the town is embarking upon a completely improper use of public power. The notion that this particular road and this particular lawn, amongst all others like it, should be singled out for establishing public access to Long Island Sound is absurd. It is pretextual. It is an abuse of public power to attempt to influence in private property rights litigation for the benefit of favored residents. That litigation is now in active mediation. The town has been invited to participate in that litigation, and it has refused those overtures to participate. Well, why else may the town be intent on heading down this path of eminent domain? Well, there are facts that the RTM should be aware of. And one of those facts is that the town attorney, Attorney Yanukovych, who has been orchestrating the authorizations for this particular taking, has a personal interest in this matter. His wife has been a key witness in the pending litigation. She has testified at length about her and her husband's former practice of passing and repassing across the lawn at the south end of Crescent Bluff Avenue to reach the beach walk. And given the rulings of the court, their ability to do that is no longer possible. But it is possible if the town, of course, takes the lawn that my client owns for public access. Another fact that is important for the RTM to know is that the owner of the waterfront property to the west of the lawn area, the McBurneys, who are also involved in the private property rights litigation, have pressed criminal trespass charges against the town attorney's wife. So these are facts that we believe it's important for the RTM to be aware of and to take in consideration when we're looking at what the motivation is behind this particular initiative. Finally, we have the Pine Orchard Association making a request that the town take for public use the lawn of one of its homeowner members. You have to think about this. The Pine Orchard Association exists to promote the interests of its member homeowners, and that organization has now formally and publicly petitioned the town to take away the lawn of one of its own homeowner members. That action was taken without giving notice to Beechcroft or any other members of the Pine Orchard Association. That action was taken without the matter having been posted on an agenda before the action was taken by the Pine Orchard Association. A member of the Pine Orchard Association has already threatened legal action against the Pine Orchard Association for its conduct in making this request to the town. And the Pine Orchard Association has urged people to come to this meeting tonight to support the taking, but are any of these other Pine Orchard residents willing to give up their own lawns for public purposes to the town? I highly doubt that. There simply is no public need for this taking, and taking this step to influence the outcome in private litigation is, in our view, bad faith. By taking this step, excuse me, the town is not going to resolve litigation. To the contrary, taking that step would create new and additional litigation. There have already been public statements made by a member of the Pine Orchard Association who is threatening suit against Pine Orchard. There will be a lawsuit to enjoin the taking by the town under these circumstances, and then there would be a lawsuit for bad faith taking, similar to what this town experienced in the situation of the Tabor property and the New England Estates matter. Our request is that the RTM reject this improper initiative. At minimum, this matter should be tabled. More information should be gathered by the RTM. Members of the RTM should come and actually look at the property that we're talking about. Mr. Cosgrove testified under oath that in his 44 years in Brantford as of 2017, he had never been to Crescent Bluff Avenue. To make this decision, people should go to Crescent Bluff Avenue, go to the lawn, see what's beneath it to make an informed decision. Because in our view, an objective decision maker who inspects the property and understands that the role of the town is not to serve the interests of select residents would quickly determine that there is no public purpose served in taking my client's property. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Representative Brockett.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. As previously agreed, we've had several citizen communications from people in the Crescent Bluff area. As a member of the RTM member of the 7th District, I've had up to nearly 50 emails, some in support of the eminent domain proceeding from the selectmen's meeting and others not in support of it. The people that have responded to me are Teresa Storer, Patricia Kaplan, Karen Gaudio, Ralph DeVito, Nancy Williams, Janice DeCocchio, Michael Barone, Peter Hugert, Peter Robinson, Patty Rose, Maureen Herbert, Lawrence Halley, Mary Beth Barnum, Susan Cirillo, John Schlesinger, Antoinette Verdarm, Marcus DeVito, Jacqueline Coffey, Alan DiFilippo, Tina Redden, Alina Colossal, Kathleen Higgins, William Singer, Brian Coffey, Elaine Littlehales, Lisa Capetta, Rick Weiss, Graham Mason, James Kaiser, David Coley, Patrick Doyle, Ronald Savin, Debbie Trofatter, Marilyn Cataldo, Harrison Levy, Linda Giordano, Frank Cirillo, Paul Dwyer, Sarah Hayes, Suzanne Paquin, Andrew Crotty, Remy Zimmerman, Lucille Douglas, Stephanie Farber, Michael Cronin, Betsy Croman. All those supported the selectmen's decision to take Crescent Bluff by eminent domain. Those that opposed it were Roger Lolich, Robert Buckholz, Aaron and James McBurney. I will take the correspondence, send it to Chairman Alphone of the Administrative Services Committee, and make it part of evidence for the record for the July 9th hearing.
Thank you. Okay, as I stated, I'm sending this to Administrative Services. They will be meeting on July 9th. I encourage people to attend that meeting. Okay, item number 5, to consider if appropriate, adopt a uniform procedure for an ordinance enforcement pursuant to the town meeting rules A 236-4-1D. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. R&O has met on this for several months. It's an initiative of R&O to adopt a uniform procedure for ordinance enforcement in the town. The vote to re-refer was unanimous, and I would put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to refer this item. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is re-referred. Item number 6, to review Branford's Town Dock Ordinance and, if appropriate, revise time limits and rights of appeal. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I was not present at the most recent R.T.M. meeting, but I believe that this matter was passed inadvertently or incorrectly by the R.T.M. It had not been reviewed by the town council. At this moment, and having been heard again at the most recent R&O meeting, where the committee voted again to re-refer, I would ask that the body allow it to re-refer, await the town council's review, and then properly pass it before this body.
You have something, son? Representative Dunbar? What was that?
I agree with that. I'll second it if you guys
Okay.
second that.
Any further discussion on the motion to re-refer the item? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is re-referred. Item number 7, to consider and if appropriate, create an ordinance regarding tree warden and public tree protection in Branford. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is also heard at the 521 R&O meeting. And after having been heard, there was a motion to re-refer this proposal, and that passed unanimously. And I would put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to re-refer this item. Any discussion on the re-referral? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is re-referred. Item number 8, to consider and if appropriate, create an ordinance restricting use of plastic bags. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This proposed ordinance has been heard over successive months and was finally reviewed by Town Council and approved by R&O on May 21st by a vote of 5-1. It's a ban on distribution of single-use plastic bags for retail checkout and is effective 6 months after passage. As passed, a fee may be charged by merchants except to SNAP or WIC patrons who can receive recyclable bags free of charge. There are penalties in here. I believe, well, I know that the ordinance has been circulated to the body. The penalties are in section 6. There's an initial warning, followed at the next violation by a fine of $150, or a $50 fine and the option of community service. The enforcement is directed to the Brantford Police Department or Board of Selectmen designees. I would mention again that the vote was 5-1. I was the one. I made my opinion clear throughout the committee process, and for that reason, I will not offer a minority report, but I would put that in the form of a motion before the body.
To approve.
To approve.
Any discussion on the motion? Representative Sullivan?
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody else wanted to speak on this item. I rise in favor of the ordinance to ban the plastic bags in Brantford. I'm glad that Brantford is taking the lead on this environmental issue, and that we have a chance to, tonight, be more protective than recently passed state statutes that were passed in Hartford. And while I would prefer to have included language that would shall charge a fee for paper bags, so we're not just shifting consumption, I do have concerns that we may not be able to pass any ordinance tonight with that language. So I'm encouraging people to vote for the ordinance as it's presented to us tonight. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Representative Ingraham?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm rising in support of the ordinance as written, coming out of R&O. Had reasons there, so I won't go long into. It is an ordinance that's in the middle. It is one that we can pass. So I ask everyone to vote yes.
Representative Walker?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My 20 years of experience with this body, this town has been pretty much in the forefront of the 169 towns and municipalities in our state, and on environmental issues and other things, and I certainly think that we're in the right place on this one also, and it's thanks to Meg Kilgore and Shirley McCarthy and some others who have really been extremely active and did wonderful research all the way through on this. And I'm 100% in favor of the ordinance and request that everyone agree. Thank you.
When that came out of committee, you don't need a second. Anybody else from the R.T.M. to speak to this? Representative Henschel?
Yes, I too would like to very much be a proponent and hope that we could get the vote on this tonight. This has been a long process. I know that during my tenure in the R.T.M., this has probably involved more concerted public input than pretty much anything else that we've acted on, which I think is marvelous. And I had hoped, as Representative Sullivan mentioned, that we would have included the language shall for the charge for paper bags, just to discourage the use or the transition back to paper bags. But in an effort to get as much support across the table as we could on this, we agreed to leave the ordinance with a provisional may instead. And I hope that will be enough to get the support of everybody on the R.T.M. tonight. I know that there are a lot of people in public that want to speak to this. I'm not going to speak to the merits of the action itself, because I'm sure that can be much more eloquently done by others, but I do support the motion.
Anyone else to speak from the R.T.M.? Representative Engelmann?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I also urge passage of this ordinance, and I think to oppose this ordinance would be analogous to opposing or not recognizing the dangers in the past of lead paint and asbestos, and dare I say to this body, climate change. I want to give kudos to all those people that wrote letters and the turnout here for people in support of this, the attention paid for this, and I would ask that we pass this ordinance as written. Thank you.
Representative Traw, you had your hand up?
Yes. Do I press this? Is that how I do it?
I just wanted to say that I'm proud to be able
If you need a stand, please.
This? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm just wanted to say I'm proud to be able to support in favor of this ordinance. This community is ready for this plastic bag ban. It's just so evident when you read the letters from the public. And I think the rule of thumb is if you see one person, there's probably 50 other supporters behind them. So I concur with others. The organizers have done a wonderful job garnering community support, and it's just inspiring to see how positive everyone is working towards something that's really positive for our community. So thank you, everyone, and I'm looking forward to voting.
Mr. Moderator?
Representative Ricchio.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to move the question. I think this has a pretty good chance to be passed. I think we all would like to get home and watch the
Representative
hockey game.
Ricchio, I want to let some of the people from the audience speak on it. Anybody else from the RTM? Representative Walker, you already spoke on this now.
It's the first good thing he's ever said.
All right.
It wasn't seconded, so.
All right, listen. What? There's a motion to move the question. It's been seconded.
He seconds it himself.
What's your motion? To move the question?
Move the question so we can vote on it.
You're not seconding that. All right, so you didn't get a second. All right, I'd like to get an opportunity for some of the public to speak. If we can consolidate this a little bit and maybe have just a few individuals speak to the item instead of having, the whole room.
Who are Bruin fans out there? Where are the Bruin fans?
The Bruins are leading.
Who have something prepared to say, but I wanted the whole group to come to let you see how many of the students are in support of our effort.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if
The rest couldn't be here because they're graduating today.
So you have something to read, right? And you have something to say. Does anybody else have something to say? Okay.
All right, so why don't we hand the mic over so they can be heard. And
we live on the.
It's on.
We live on the coast. This means a lot of plastic bags end up near here. Many animals mistake plastic bags for food and die choking on them. Last week we had a field trip to the beach and we were picking up trash. We found plastic bags. We found a full plastic bag and parts of a couple plastic bags. We found 2 dead fish and 1 dead crab. This was sad to us. Plastic bags should not be harming animals. We know our next step for our eco-friendly project is we want to stop these plastic bags from hurting our environment. The only way to do that is not allowing people to use them. Many people already use reusable bags when they go shopping as an alternative to plastic bags. Companies like Stop & Shop currently have to keep buying bags. With reusable bags, Stop & Shop can spend the money they used on plastic bags on something else. With reusable bags, companies would not only save money, but make money with the people purchasing them. Plastic bags can take up to 1,000 years to degrade. When they eventually do break up into tiny particles, those particles contaminate our soil and water sources. Giving up plastic bags would not be a huge sacrifice for the greater good of the earth.
Thank you very much.
Our oceans produce over half of the world's oxygen. Our oceans are our planet's lungs. They are our lungs too, and we are suffocating. We are smothering innocent marine life by the millions. Our oceans are infected with a cancer, and that cancer is plastic, and the cancer is spreading. Recent projections state that by 2050, plastic will vastly outnumber fish in our oceans. Plastic bags reside in the deepest depths of the Marianas Trench and the microplastic stew known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. From sea to shining sea, autopsies of dead whales reveal tons upon tons of plastic. When cigarettes were discovered to be cancerous, we took action. We banned ads and prohibited smoking indoors. Why should this be any different? Plastic bags have seduced us with the cancer of convenience. We put the food we consume into bags that contain known carcinogens without a care in the world. Plastic bags are made of oil. This fossil fuel is the lifeblood of climate change. If we do nothing, rising sea levels will drown our shores and erode the ground we stand on. We are a shoreline town. We cannot ignore these issues that are knocking on our front door. We must act with urgency because our future is at stake. If you were in a plane crash, you would put on your oxygen mask, and you would most definitely put on your children's.
Anybody else from the group to speak, or is that it? All right, that's it? All right, thank you very much.
I'm Meg Kilgore, and the sort of person who was put in charge because probably no one else didn't want to do it. But basically, I had prepared 3 pages of reading, and I think that I see that this is not necessary tonight. But what I want to say is, for all of us that are concerned about the plastic that's in the ocean and really contaminating the land as well, and is a hazard for animals as well as people, I want to say that for my fear of what's going on, I think we should remember that these students are the next generation. And whatever the problem is now, it's going to be a whole lot bigger then, unless we act on it right away, okay? And, you know, there's so many plastics out in the ocean that have not really broken down into the microplastics yet, that haven't ended up in someone's soup or in the whale, some of a whale or whatever, that this problem is not going to get better for a good while, even if we eliminated all plastics that are going around the land and the sea now. So I think that's why I wanted them to speak first, because they're the ones of the future, and this is who we need to protect. Not only the people, but all animals and all ways of life. So I hope that you will understand that, and it sounds like from the comments that people have made, that people are aware that this is a huge issue for the planet. Not just for Brantford, for the whole planet, and Brantford needs to do its part.
Thank you.
if anybody else who was planning on speaking would like to say anything.
That's his job.
No, that's it? All
I
right.
think we'll pass.
Okay, thank you very much. I should point out that if it's pretty interesting about plastic, tonight on Channel 8 News, they talked about the human consumption, and the worst-case culprit was your plastic water bottles that we all drink our water from.
Some of us drink our water.
So, hearing no further discussion on this item, I'll call for a roll call vote on this.
Roll call vote? Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator? Go ahead.
Representative Adelman.
Yes.
Representative Alphone.
Yes.
Representative Anderson.
Yes.
Representative Black.
Yes.
Representative Brockett, yes. Representative Conklin.
Yes.
Representative Dunbar.
Yes.
Representative Erlinger.
Yes.
Representative Greenberg.
Yes.
Representative Healy.
Yes.
Representative Henschel.
Yes.
Representative Ingraham.
Yes.
Representative Jackson.
Yes.
Representative Lawler. Representative Lawler left?
You left.
Okay. Representative Leonard.
Pass.
Representative Lombardi.
Yes.
Representative Preet.
Yes.
Representative Ricchio.
Yes.
Representative Samro.
Yes.
Representative Stepanik. Representative Sullivan.
Yes.
Representative Torelli.
Yes.
Representative Trow.
Yes.
Representative Toohill.
Yes.
Representative Walker.
Yes.
Representative Wells.
Yes.
Representative Sember.
Yes.
Representative Leonard.
I'll abstain.
Obviously, it passed.
Yes, we passed, Mr.
The ordinance passed. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Item number 9, to review and if appropriate, proposed changes to Chapter 189 of the Branford Town Code, specifically regarding trash collection. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. On 521, R&O met to hear this item for the first time. It's a review of the noise ordinance, specifically regarding trash collection. And the motion to re-refer passed unanimously, and I will put that in the form of a motion.
Motion to re-refer this item. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the item is re-referred. Item 10, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the General Government Building, GGB, for the following fiscal 2019 budget transfer from Adult DC Condensing Unit, $2,410, from Regional Energy Task Force, $140, from BELC boiler replacement, $3,000 for a total of $5,550, to Town Hall counter replacement, $5,550. Representative Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I do feel totally inadequate to speak after the high school, or after the students did, but I'll do my best here. This was heard at our meeting on June the 6th, and it is GGB doing what Representative Brockett and I had asked them to do a few months ago, and that is to look at their capital budgets and those projects that are closed or complete and it's old money, take that money and transfer it to a project that is needed so that we don't have to take tax money, other tax money to do it. So this is the transfer of capital funds, and it was approved unanimously in committee, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to approve this item. Any discussion on the approval? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Item number 11, to consider and if appropriate, approve request from the Human Services Director for the following budget transfer for the fiscal 2019. From property, auto, general liability insurance, $1,100, to credit card processing fees, $1,100.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Admin services did not meet this month, so I'd like to make a motion to waive Town Rule 4.4.1.
Second.
Motion on the floor to waive Rule 441, and it's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a interdepartment transfer for fiscal year 2019. There's some increased credit card processing fees, and the transfer is to cover those increased fees.
Motion is to approve it.
I'm sorry, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Item 12, to consider if appropriate, approve request from the ERACE Brantford Adult Education for the following 2019 budget transfer. From salary certified, $6,300. From memberships, conference meetings, $310 for a total of $6,610. To advertising, printing, $5,670. To purchase services, $630. To salaries not certified, non-certified, $310 for a total of $6,610. Representative Toohill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The R.T.M. Education Committee tried to meet on Monday, June 3rd, but unfortunately there was no quorum. So at this time, I too would like to make the motion to waive RTM Rule 4-4-1.
Second.
Is there a second on the waiving the Rule 4-441? Any discussion on waiving the rule? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item carries.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We did hear from Christine Bjork. She came to the meeting, and she explained that the reason for the transfers are that, first of all, they print some 70,000 catalogs which go to 4 towns, which, it's expensive. So that's what the printing cost is for. And then the other transfer was to go to, it was $630 from purchase services to, it's to pay for a person that, she does the processing of the students, and, she hires the teachers and stuff like that. So the whole thing is very straightforward, and at this time, I'd like to put it in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Sullivan. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item carries. Item 13, to consider and if appropriate, approve request from the Board of Police Commissioners for the following 2019 budget transfer. From office supplies, $3,115. From regular wages and salaries, $72,000. From fuel, $35,000, for a total of $110,115. To technology, $3,115. To overtime, $50,000. To vehicles, $35,000. To vehicle equipment, $22,000, for a total of $110,115. Representative Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This was discussed at our public service meeting on June 6th, and it is an intra-year, intra-budget transfer. They have money in regular wages and salaries, actually due to having the vacancies in the department, so they have that available. And fuel didn't cost as much as they had anticipated, and I know I'm paying a little less at the fuel pump. And so it's going in mostly for paying of the overtime to replace the officers who weren't there. And at budget time, we reduced the ask of the police department by one vehicle and asked them to find it within their budget, so we didn't have to tax again for it. And this is the department doing that. It was approved unanimously in our committee, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Any discussion on the motion for approval?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I would just like to thank Representative Conklin. This is another one of those meetings that Representative Conklin and I had with the police chief to clean up the 700 capital accounts. And as the members will notice, there are $35,000 for a new vehicle coming out of an old capital account and $22,000 to equip that vehicle coming out of a capital account, so thereby saving tax dollars for next year's fiscal budget. So we appreciate that, and thank you, Don.
Any further discussion on the transfers? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Item 14, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the Department of Parks and Recreation for the following transfer for fiscal 2019. From utilities, water, gas, and electric, $15,000, to purchase services R&M, $5,000, and to grounds R&M, $10,000, for a total of $15,000. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Our Ways and Means did not meet, so I'd ask that we waive Rule 4.41 and try to get this matter settled tonight.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on waiving Rule 441? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's waived. Okay. Representative Black.
Thank you. I've spoken with Alex Paluzzi. These are adjustments that he'd like to make coming toward the end of the year. It's been a wet spring, so he's got some savings in utilities. On the other hand, they've taken on new grounds maintenance responsibilities, notably Young's Pond, the fields there, as well as, of course, he's also taken over Parker Park as well as Foot Park and other new areas. So he'd like to get more money in the grounds and some of the purchase services that help maintain those areas. So I put this in the form of motion that we approve this transfer of the $15,000 out of utilities into purchase services and grounds maintenance.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Item 15, to consider and if appropriate, approve the following budget transfer from fiscal 2019 pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement for the United Public Service Employees Union Police as approved by the R.T.M. on the May 14, 2019 meeting. From contingency, $229,663, to wages and salaries, $199,656, to overtime, $11,789, to overtime public events, $3,576, to vacation, $5,436, to holidays, $5,899, to sick pay, $2,593, to shift differential, $744. This current year for wages and the previous fiscal years also is from contingency, $129,259, to retro wages, $129,259. Representative Black?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we did not meet, so I ask that we waive Rule 441 and deal with this matter tonight.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Any further discussion on waiving Rule 441? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As you all know, we passed a police contract that has been in negotiation for a long time, including all of the present fiscal year and some of the prior fiscal year. These are the adjustments that we need to make to pay the retroactive and for the rest of this fiscal year wages that are due under the new contract. We're contractually obligated to make them. The funds were set aside in contingency to make these transfers. So I put that in the form of motion and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion on the floor has been seconded. Any discussion? Representative Henschel?
One quick question, where does this leave our contingency?
$365,961.
Less.
That's the remaining.
Oh, that's the remaining?
The remaining balance. There've been some contracts that are still unsettled, that we're not likely to, so that's part of that. And, you know, we didn't have as much snow this year, yada, yada, yada.
Bonuses for the RTO?
Representative Dunbar?
I just got one question. Is this money contingency into all these accounts for next year's budget?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, negative. Negative. This is for the current year. We already made the adjustment for next fiscal year at our budget meeting, so that we wouldn't have to go through this in September or something like that. We were able to get ahead of the curve a little bit, but, so this is all for the year that's ending at the end of June and for the prior year.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Item 16, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the town clerk for the following fiscal 2019 budget transfer from professional development, $13, from advertising and printing, $335 for a total of $348, to education incentive, $250, to equipment, $98 for a total of $348. Representative Alphone?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, admin services did not meet in June, so I'd like to make a motion to waive Town Rule 4.4.1.
Is there a second? All right. Motion on the floor to waive Rule 441. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is an interdepartment transfer for fiscal year 2019. It's to cover an additional education incentive as well as the replacement of a typewriter, I believe, for
An actual typewriter.
like an actual typewriter for birth certificates, death certificates, stuff like that. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Second by Representative Peter Jackson. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Item 17, to act upon a request from the Finance Director to close out School Ground Road Bridge Project and approve the following resolution. Resolution declaring School Ground Road Bridge Project complete and the remaining bonds authorized to be issued to finance such projects withdrawn. Representative Black?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we did not meet this past month. I know I and think some others have some questions on this matter, so I ask that this be re-referred. Thank you.
What was your motion now? To
Re-refer.
refer the item?
Refer since it hasn't.
Okay. Item has been re-referred. Motion on the floor to re-refer the item has been seconded. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor of re-referring the item signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This item is re-referred.
Second. I second it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Ray. Item 18, to approve and forward application to the Department of Revenue Service pursuant to the 2019 Connecticut Neighborhood Assistance Program. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, admin services didn't meet in June, so I'd like to make a motion to waive Town Rule 4.4.1.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion on the floor to waive Rule 4.41. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Representative Alphone.
Thank you. I will note that we did approve, this body approved participating in the Neighborhood Assistance Program about 2 months ago, I think, at the full R.T.M. meeting. Since then, we've gotten 4 applicants that have applied for the program. I believe we're supposed to approve them individually. I don't know if you want to do it all in one vote or just...
You can do it all in one sum. You have a copy of, you have where they are? I have it here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it as well.
Okay.
The four organizations are Mutual Housing Authority, Branford Education Foundation, the Connecticut Hospice, and Stony Creek Fife and Drum. And,
Why don't you mention the amounts? You have the amounts?
I do not have the amounts in front of me. I do
I
have
have
the
Mutual
credit
Mutual
requested.
Housing Association, Community Housing, 150,000. Branford Education Foundation, Robotics, 7,000. Stony Creek Fife and Drum Corps, Energy Conservation, Seaside Hall, 12,000. Connecticut Hospice, Energy Conservation, 45,000, for a total of 214,000.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any discussion on the approval? It's been seconded. All
Mr.
those in-
Moderator, I just
Yes.
have one question.
Yeah.
I know we approve these, and I'm in favor of approving them. I'm wondering if after these entities receive these funds, is there any sort of project completion report that they submit? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I haven't seen one out there.
I don't know.
I work closely with
I'll
them.
be honest with you, I don't know,
Yeah.
Representative
I don't know
Sullivan.
either.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know the school, the playground at the recreation center used it. That group used it. They got quite, $10,000, so.
Oh, I'm in favor of the program. I
Yeah,
just-
yeah, I know I can report out on one. I was working with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. No further discussion. All those in favor of this item, approving this transfer, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Item 19, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from the town engineer for a storm sewer easement between the town and Michael and Lucia Carano of 63 Meadowwood Road. Selectman Cosgrove, can you talk to that? Or Anthony, you know
Yes.
about
We have
that?
to put it on the floor first.
No, but I'd like to make a motion to waive Rule 4.4.1.
Okay, motion on the floor to waive the rule 4.1.
I'll second.
Second it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Representative Cosgrove? Cosgrove selected Cosgrove.
Yeah, so typically the town engineer will be presenting this. He was unable to make it tonight. However, the Board of Selectmen did hear this back in May, which we approved it unanimously. This is on 63 Meadowwood Road. There was a storm line that went through that parcel that was connected to the town drainage system, to a catch basin out in the street. It went through the parcel on an angle. It was there for years. There was no town easements in place. When the current property owner was going to do an addition to the house, the storm drainage actually went in close proximity to the house, and it was in conflict with the addition. Then approached the town about relocating the storm drain, which we then secured an easement to have the drain on the property. The contractor working for the homeowner did all the work, the relocation for the, but however, it was inspected by the town. And I believe the town actually did, we did provide the materials that were to be used in the town right away, out in the street, in the catch basin, because we added a new catch basin. And then the property owner took it from the new catch basin down. So this is just kind of cleaning up there was no drainage easement in place, and just getting the pipe relocated in easement.
Okay. Representative Alphone, you want to make a motion then?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the item for approval? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The item carries. Item number 20, any other business to come before the RTM? Representative Tuhill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. 3 former RTM representatives have passed, and I would request a moment of silence, please, for John Preet, Lucy Bello, and Madeline Janover.
We have a moment of silence. Okay. And I was going to mention also how Representative Lawler, who has left, unfortunately, thank you for his service. on the R.T.M. I believe he submitted his letter of resignation. So we want to thank him for his service to the R.T.M. And
He is the new
Res-
Republican Registrar of
Yeah.
Voters.
Mr. Cook? What's that?
Will you be meeting this summer, the RTM?
I'm sorry, what?
Will you be meeting this summer, the RTM?
I haven't made that decision yet, Wayne and Mr. Cook. I just, it depends on a couple of factors that play into this. The Board of Finance obviously being number one. There's a possibility that fire contract may be coming pretty close too. So at this point, I can't say.
But you normally don't, correct?
Well, we normally don't, but there's been years where we have met either on a July or possibly if we didn't meet in July, we made it in August. So it just, but that changes all the time.
So will they be meeting for those items only, or will they be only?
If we meet, it'll be with any items that was re-referred or any additional items that may come up. Any other business come before the RTM? Representative Torelli?
Branford Fest?
What?
Want to mention Branford Fest?
What?
Branford Festival this weekend?
Is that the date? Branford Festival's this weekend.
Yeah.
Throw it out there.
We have,
Thank you.
Yeah, don't forget the festival. Looks like we got a couple of good days of weather. Representative Torelli, motion to adjourn? I'll wait for a second, because Representative Delmar always gets mad, so. He's not second yet.
Sullivan second.
Sullivan second. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.
Frank.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.